Hi guys, good evening everyone. In today's session, we are going to understand what is reactive programming in the Spring and how to develop one application by using that reactive programming. Guys, in the Spring, we are using Web Starter in order to develop our web or REST-based applications. We are having Web Starter. Using this Web Starter dependency, we are able to develop web application as well as REST applications, right? So whatever the applications that we are developing, right, those applications can be classified into two types. One is synchronous based applications, synchronous based execution in the web application, and another one is asynchronous based execution will be available. Synchronous based execution as well as asynchronous based execution will be available. Synchronous based execution, nothing but that is going to support blocking thread. Synchronous based execution means it is going to support blocking thread. Asynchronous based execution, nothing but it is going for non-blocking thread. So after a request is made, that thread will wait for the response, then it will proceed its execution. So that is synchronous based execution, that is called blocking thread. Asynchronous based execution, nothing but non-blocking thread. Performance wise, these asynchronous executions are highly recommended. Now here, in order to support this asynchronous based execution, Spring 5.x introduced reactive programming. Spring 5.x version onwards, this reactive programming concept got introduced. What is the main aim of the reactive programming? Reactive programming is used to work with async based execution. If you want to execute your threads without waiting for others, then you can go for this non-blocking thread kind of execution. That non-blocking thread execution support is added from this Spring 5.x version that we are calling as reactive programming. Okay, to work with this reactive programming in the Spring 5.x, they introduced WebFlux Starter. So that is the reactive web starter, WebFlux. In Spring 5.x version, WebFlux Starter got introduced. WebFlux got introduced. So what is the purpose of this starter WebFlux? The starter WebFlux is used to develop our applications with the reactive execution style, reactive programming, functional based programming we are going to write by using these things. So this reactive introduced in the Spring 5.x version. So if you want to use this reactive based development, if you want to develop your application with reactive style, then you need to go for starter WebFlux dependency in the pom.xml. So earlier we used just boot starter to develop a standalone application. Then we used a web starter to develop web application by using Spring Boot, and REST API also we developed by using web starter. But they all are blocking mechanism, thread blocking mechanism we used. If you want to use non-blocking mechanism, then you can go for WebFlux starter. With that WebFlux starter, we can use reactive programming, that is new trend that is running in the market. So how to develop one application by using blocking thread approach, and how to develop one application by using non-blocking thread approach. So earlier we developed our application like this: public class REST controller, for example. Welcome REST controller will be available. We are going to represent this as a REST controller. Inside this class, we are going to write the methods whatever we want, like public string get message. Okay, inside this we will write some logic and we are going to return some message. So this method we are going to map to URL pattern. For that we are going for get mapping slash message. Get mapping slash message. So like this we are going to develop our applications. So these are traditional approach, legacy approach, old approach. So what we are going to develop here, this is called as old approach. So non-reactive programming. So whatever the programming that we have done, that is a non-reactive programming that is going to follow blocking thread approach. Okay. Now in this Spring 5.x version onwards, what is the new approach to develop our application? What is the new approach to develop our application? Message handler. I'm going to create a class, public class message handler. Message handler. Like this, I'm going to create one class. I'm not going to make it as a REST controller. If I make that as a REST controller, that will become again traditional approach. I don't want that. Okay. I want to develop a reactive application. Okay. For that, I'm going to represent this as a component by using component annotation. Public mono server response. So I want to return some response from this method. Handle message. If you need any data from the server, then you can take that as a server request. And you are going to return mono server response. Return new. That server response I need to send to the client. Return new server response. Return new server response dot OK. I want to send the response. In which format you want to send the response? Dot content type. I want to send the response in the JSON format. Media type dot application underscore JSON will be available. Then what is the body? Whatever the body that you want to send, setup dot body. Whatever the body you want to send as a response, that you can specify body inserters dot from value. So whatever the data that you want to send in the body, you can send that value. So like this, I'm going to write the new style of request handlers. I'm not writing any @REST controller. I'm not writing any get mapping or post mapping. So here, this is old approach. We are going to create the REST controller. In that REST controller, we are going to create a method. That method is mapped to one get request. But in the reactive approach, we are not going to map that method to the URL pattern directly here. So here, non-blocking thread execution, I want to achieve. So once we create this component, for this component, for this method, we are going to create one router. We are going to create one router. What is the purpose of the router? That router is used to route the request to the request handler. Router is used to route the request to the request handler. I'm going to create one more class called public greeting or some message router. This one I want to represent as a configuration class. For that, we can go for @configuration. Inside this, I need to write the logic to route the request. If any request comes with the /message, then I want to route the request to this method available in the message request handler. So my class name can be anything, that is message request handler. Any request that comes to /message URL pattern, that should be routed to this method. That logic we are going to write inside the router. In the reactive style, we are going to write the request handlers. For those request handlers, we are going to configure the routers. Now, public router function, which is going to return server response. Whatever the response that you want to send from that. Do the routing. For what is that routing we need to do? I'm having message request handler. Message request handler, that object I'm taking as a parameter. Then I need to return that router object. So for that, I'm going to create @pin object. Then return router functions dot route. So I want to route the request to the particular method based on the URL pattern. Route, if I get a get request with the /hello URL pattern, then I want to route that request. To whom I want to route that request, I'm going to specify that and which is going to accept that JSON data, right? Then who is the handler? The handler is message request handler dot handle method will be available. Whatever the method name you write, same method name you need to pass. That means whenever a request comes, get request comes with the slash hello URL pattern, that should be routed to this class method. So like this, we are going to create our methods by using reactive style. Reactive means non-blocking approach. Currently, this is trending in the market. Fine. You can see the official documentation, what they are saying about reactive programming. Right. Now let me go and create one simple project, guys. So I have given the steps here. How to develop one REST API by using reactive approach. Spring Boot reactive example. The first step that you need to do is create one boot application. In that boot application, earlier we used web starter. If you want to go for normal synchronous based applications, then web starter is fine. But if you want to go for reactive based applications, then you need to go for Webflux dependency. That will provide the reactive approach. So there is a concept called project reactor. Spring and that reactor both are integrated and they are providing reactive programming in our Spring Boot application. All right. Create file, new Spring Starter project. So let me take project name as 48 Spring Boot reactive app. Spring Boot reactive application. What are the dependencies I'm going to take for this? I'm going to take Lombok dependency and reactive web dependency. That's it. Reactive web dependency. Let me type Webflux. If you type Webflux, then you are getting the reactive web dependency. And remember, when you go for normal web starter, it will give Tomcat as the default embedded container. But if you go for reactive web dependency, it will give you Webflux dependency and it will provide Netty as a default embedded server. Tomcat Jetty Netty. If you add only web starter, then you will get Apache Tomcat as the default embedded server. But when you go for reactive web dependency, you are going to get Netty as the default embedded container. That Netty supports reactive programming based executions. Clear? I have selected only two dependencies, guys. Observe. One is Lombok, another one is reactive web. Go to next and click on finish. So with this, my reactive project is getting created. Let's verify that and see our project pom.xml. Verify that, see our project pom.xml. What are the dependencies that are available in the pom.xml? Spring Boot Starter Webflux dependency. Earlier we have only web dependency. Now we are having Webflux dependency. So how this reactive programming concept is added? By using project reactor. So there is a project reactor project is available that is integrated with our Spring, and Spring is supporting for this reactive programming. I have added only two dependencies, Webflux dependency and this Lombok dependency. When I add the Webflux, automatically that reactor test dependency is also coming. I'm not doing anything, guys. Just I want to run my project and I want to show you what is the embedded container I'm getting. Okay. Right click, run as boot application. Right click, run as boot application. Observe what is happening here. Application started. Guys, can you see here? Tomcat server started or Netty server started? Which server started, guys? Here, it started the Tomcat server or it started Netty server? Come on. Which server got started now? If you add the web starter, then it will start Tomcat server. If you add the web starter, then it will start. If you add web starter, it will start the Tomcat server. But if you add the reactive web, then it is going to start Netty. Netty is also running on the port number 8080. Okay. Once this project is created, now I want to develop one API with reactive programming. First, I'm going to create one binding class, guys. That class I'm calling as a model. I'm taking the class as greeting. So here I'm taking one variable private message. Okay. At the rate data. I want a constructor also for this. So let me go for at the rate all args constructor and at the rate no args constructor. At the rate data, at the rate all args constructor and at the rate no args constructor. I'm taking one binding class. So here I've given the steps. Spring Boot reactive example. The first step, create the boot application with reactive dependency. So reactive dependency, nothing but web flux. Web flux. Reactive web dependency means starter web flux. Starter web flux dependency. It will provide netty as default embedded container. If you add the web starter, Apache Tomcat will come as a default embedded container, but when you add the web flux, it will provide netty as the default embedded container. Its port number is also 88. That is the default port number. If you want, you can change that. Create binding class to represent response. I want to send one message as a response. So I'm going to represent that by using this greeting class. Then let me create my handler. Basically, we'll call it as a controller, but in the reactive programming, that is called as a handler. Okay. So here I'm taking that handler with a name called greeting handler. So this is not a REST controller. It's basically a request handler that I'm going to create. So to represent this Java as a Java class, I'm going for simple component annotation. I will go for simple component annotation. Inside this, I will write one method. Okay. Public mono object that is from the reactive. So mono server response. I'm going to use. Here I'm using handle greet. So this method should return that server response object in the form of mono. For that, return new server response dot okay. New server response dot okay. So I need to return that server response object. I need to return new server response object. I think I imported the wrong package. Server response. Now, so return server response dot okay. So I need to return that response to the client. So am I writing any REST controller or any method here? Am I going to write any REST controller, any method? Nothing. Just return server response. It is an interface. Server response dot okay. Then content. What is the content that we are going to return from this? The content that is dot content. So whatever the content that you want to return, I want to return JSON content. Media type dot application underscore JSON. Then dot body. Whatever the data that you want to send in the body. For that, I will take body inserters dot from value. I will create a new binding class object, new greeting. For that, I will set some value. Hello world. That's it. Got it. So this is the method. So this method is my greeting handle method. Okay, here I'm writing one method called handle greet method. Method name can be anything. I'm not mapping to any URL pattern. So this method can take server request as an input. If you want any data which is coming from the request, you can take that data by using server request as a input. And this method will handle that request and it will return server response. Here, this is my handler. So when this method should be executed, for that, I'm going to create one router. Let me create one router. So greet router. So let me configure this class as a normal configuration class by using @configuration annotation. Now I need to write the logic to route it. Whenever a request comes with a /hello, then I need to route that request to greeting handler in that handle greet. Some method is available. Handle greet method is available. So this is the routing that I need to configure. Whenever a request comes with a /hello URL pattern, that should be mapped to this class method. That we need to do that. For that, we need to write one bean as a router function. That router function is responsible to do this operation. That router function is responsible to do this operation. So public router function server response. Let me configure route. For this route also, I'm taking our class as a parameter, greeting handler, that is greeting handler. Inside this, what is the logic to route that request? First, this one should be represented as a bean. This one should be represented as a bean. Then return router functions. Return router functions. Router functions dot route. So what do you want to route? Whenever a GET request comes, I want to take this GET as a static import, guys. Let me check for the package. GET. Whenever a GET request comes with a /hello, then I want to route that request to particular method. When I get the GET request, then I want to route that request to that particular method. Route with a GET. Whenever GET request comes to the hello URL pattern, whenever GET request comes with the hello URL pattern, I need to import this GET as a static import. This will be available in a package. Route. Guys, can you hear me now? I got disconnected. Guys, all of you, can you hear me now? Could you please respond in the chat box? Am I audible? Yeah, perfect. So we are trying to configure a route for our reactive programming. Okay. So in order to do that configuration, I need to return new router functions dot route. I need to return the router functions route. It's not an object creation. Return router functions dot route. For this route, I need to configure the predicate and what is the handler function. right? It's a reactive programming. I need to specify for this request which function should be executed. We know the function name, that is greeting handler. We know the function name, that is greeting handler of greet message, handle greet message. So here my route method is having two parameters. One is a predicate and another one is handler. That means, so for which request, which function should be executed. So here I'm going to specify that if anybody send a get request, if anybody send a get request with a /hello as a URL pattern, then route that request to this handler method. That is the configuration that I need to specify. For that configuration, here I have given my router. So router functions dot route get of /hello and accept type is a JSON. Then you forward that request to that particular function. So this is the routing function that I need to configure. In this routing function, what we are telling? In this routing function, we are telling that whenever a get request comes with /hello as a URL pattern, and if they are accepting JSON data as a response, then go and call this method. So greeting handler class is available. In that there is a method available. Whenever a request comes with this URL pattern, then that should be handled by this method. Here get and accept, these are the static imports that I need to add it. Let me check the actual package for that. I kept my project in the GitHub repository, guys. So greeting router. In this router, yes, we need to take the reactive request predicate get, request predicate accept. These are two static imports I need to add it. Two static imports I'm adding for them. Router functions dot route request predicate arguments type not applicable for the arguments request predicate greeting hello. What is missing? Dot route router functions dot route get of hello and accept of media type application /JSON. Then it should be mapped to that. Correct, na? Any mistake that I'm doing? Router functions dot route, correct? URL pattern and static imports also available. Method name handle greet method. I was giving method name wrong. Good. So this is my routing that I am configuring, guys. Configuration, greet router is available. In this router function, I'm specifying whenever a get request comes with the /hello, and if they are accepting the JSON data as an input, as an output, then that request should be handled by this method. With this, I am creating one project. In this project, I have created one binding class that is used to represent the response. And I created one handler class. In this handler class, I'm taking server request as the input and I'm giving server response as the output. So server response dot okay, what is my content type and what is my response data? Greet class object is available. I'm setting the message by using the all arguments constructor and I'm returning that object as a mono server response. So when this method should be executed, whenever a request comes with the /hello, then only that method should be executed. That is the router configuration we have done. Refresh this. Run as boot application. As we are having Webflux starter, then it is going to use Netty server. Netty server is also running on the port number 8080. Let's go to browser and let's hit the URL and check it. Localhost :8080. nothing is coming. Localhost /hello. Whenever I send a request to /hello, then I'm getting the message as hello world. So this is my reactive API. The reactive APIs are non-blocking APIs. They are very fast in the performance. When we are dealing with huge amount of data, going with the synchronous execution will take a lot of time. So that's why people are going to implement reactive based applications. So performance wise, they are better when compared with non-reactive applications. So this is one example that we are creating by using reactive approach. So in this method, the handler method, whatever the logic you want, you can do that. You can insert the data or you can retrieve the data. You can perform DB operations also. These methods are going to execute in the reactive fashion. That means non-blocking threads will be available. Simple. We have created one project. In that project, we have used Webflux dependency. When we are using Webflux dependency, it will provide netty as a default embedded container. And I'm creating one binding class. That binding class is used to represent the response from my application. And I'm creating one handler class like this. In this handler class, I'm writing the logic to return the response by using this mono object. So when this method should be executed reactively in the asynchronous mode, whenever a request comes to the /hello URL pattern, then only that method should be executed. For that, we are running the application and we are testing. We are able to test that application and we are able to get the output also as expected. When I send a request to /hello, then I'm getting the message as hello world. So like this, you can develop reactive APIs by using Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is integrated with the Project Reactor. That is a third-party library, guys, that is providing the reactive execution of our code. Spring Boot is integrated with that Project Reactor and we are able to implement reactive APIs in the Spring Boot. Perfect. Good. And next one, someone asked how to monitor logs of our application by using EFK. How to monitor logs of our application by using EFK. Guys, EFK is the combination of three products, guys. I have already prepared your notes for that. Let me show you that. What is EFK and how we are going to work with that EFK. EFK is used to monitor ELK. Some people will go for EFK. That is used to monitor logs of our application. This ELK is the combination of three products, guys. So if you go for ELK, that ELK is the combination of three products. ELK. First one is E, stands for Elasticsearch. Second one is L, that is nothing but Logstash. And third one is Kibana. ELK is the combination of three open source products. ELK is the combination of three open source products. First one is Elasticsearch, second one is Logstash, and the third one is Kibana. Okay, guys. Right? So ELK stands for three open source products. ELK is the combination of three open source products. One is Elasticsearch, second one is Logstash, and the third one is Kibana. So what is this Elasticsearch? It is used to store and process logs. Elasticsearch is used to store and process logs. Then what is Logstash? It is used to collect application logs and store in Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch is used to store and process the logs. Logstash is used to collect the application logs and store into Elasticsearch. Then Kibana. It will provide user interface to monitor application logs. What is Kibana? Kibana will provide user interface to monitor application logs. So by using these three products, by using the above three products, we can implement log aggregation, log aggregation, and logs monitoring. So application is executing. When the application is executing, logs will be generated. So why we need to go for the logs? Logs are used to understand how our application is running, what are the issues that are occurring in the application. So logs are going to play a very important role when we are developing our applications. When we are running the application in the high environment, we need to monitor how the logs are there. For that, some projects will use Splunk to monitor the logs of the application. That is a commercial software. In some companies, they don't want to go for commercial software, then they want free software. That's where this ELK comes into picture. ELK is the combination of 3 open source products. One is Elasticsearch. It is used to store and process the logs. And the second one is Logstash. It is used to collect application logs and store in the Elasticsearch. Third one is Kibana. It will provide user interface to monitor application logs. By using the above 3 products, we can implement log aggregation and logs monitoring. So let's do ELK setup, guys. First, we need to download these 3 ELK softwares. In the real time, it is not the duty of the developer to set up the ELK, guys. Developers are going to monitor the logs, but this environment setup will be taken care by operations team. Because our application deployment will be taken care by DevOps team. That DevOps team is going to set up this ELK stack or whatever the log monitoring that is required for the application. That log monitoring platform will be provided by DevOps team. So first, if you want to set up this ELK, you need to download all these 3 softwares. One is Elasticsearch, second one is Kibana, third one is Logstash. Elasticsearch. If you go to this URL in the browser, you can find out that Elasticsearch software can be downloaded from this location. Download Elasticsearch. If you click on this Windows button, Elasticsearch software will be downloaded. If you go for Kibana, this URL will help you to download Kibana software for our Windows platform. Logstash. This URL you can use to download Logstash in your system. These 3 softwares are required in order to perform our logs monitoring. I have already downloaded all these 3 softwares in my machine. Let me show you them. I'm having softwares folder. Here you can see Elasticsearch is available, Kibana is available, Logstash is available. We are able to download all these 3 softwares and extract the zip files. First, I'm going to run Elasticsearch. It is used to store the logs. So before going to run this Elasticsearch, there will be one elasticsearch.yml file. We should go to that file, go to Elasticsearch, Elasticsearch config. Elasticsearch.yml file will be available. In this YML file, by default, some security related settings will be enabled. We need to make all those settings as false to run in our Windows machine. Enable security features, by default, true will be available. We need to make all of them as false in order to run in our local machine. Once that part is completed, let's go to bin directory and open command prompt. Let us start Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch, to start this, we are having a bat file. Elasticsearch bat file will be available. By using that Elasticsearch bat file, we can run this. Elasticsearch bat file is available. Yes, I'm running this Elasticsearch server. Once the Elasticsearch server is started, we can access that Elasticsearch server by using this URL. As we are running the Elasticsearch in the local machine, we can access that with the local host. By default, it will use the port number as 9200. If I represent this diagrammatically, how this Elasticsearch, Kibana, Logstash is going to work. Here, assume that my boot application is available. Here, my boot application is running. My application will generate the log, right? That log will be collected by using Logstash. So from our application, Logstash will collect the logs. Logstash will give the logs to Elasticsearch. So this we can call it as Elasticsearch. It will take the logs from the Logstash. This Elasticsearch will give the logs to one UI application that is called Kibana. Here Kibana application will come into picture. This Kibana will provide user interface. By using that Kibana, we can monitor logs of our application. So here end user will be available. I mean to say developers who are going to monitor the logs. These developers are going to connect with Kibana. Kibana will connect with Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch will connect with Logstash. Logstash will collect the logs from our application. Let us see here. My Elasticsearch server is getting started. On which port number it is going to run? It will be running on the port number 9200. Okay. Go to browser. Let us try to access that. Localhost colon 9200. I'm trying to access Elasticsearch. If you are able to get the output like this, that means your Elasticsearch server is up and running. Elasticsearch server is up and running. Now, let me go and start the Kibana. Let me go and start the Kibana. Kibana should connect with Elasticsearch. Okay. Let me go to the Kibana downloaded folder. Kibana is available. Kibana config. Kibana.yml is available. You can verify in the Kibana.yml that will connect with the Elasticsearch server. Kibana will connect with the Elasticsearch server. So it is Kibana, you see, Elasticsearch host, localhost colon 9200. So in the Kibana YML file, there is a URL of Elasticsearch. That means Kibana will connect with Elasticsearch. Why? Kibana is just a UI application. Kibana should get the logs from the Elasticsearch. Let's go here. Go to Kibana bin directory. Let's execute Kibana.bat. That will start Kibana server. That's it. Kibana.bat. So it is going to run Kibana. So what is this Kibana? Kibana will provide the UI. Kibana server will be running on the port number 5601. Kibana will be running on the port number 5601. Let us verify. Kibana server is trying to start. Once it started, it will connect with Elasticsearch because Elasticsearch is already up and running. My Elasticsearch is already up and running. That is used to store the logs. Yeah, I'm waiting for my Kibana to start. Yes, Kibana server is trying to start now. It will run on the port number 5601. That Kibana will provide dashboard to monitor logs of our application. Okay, go here, access Kibana dashboard. Yes, now you see the Kibana dashboard is loading. That is used to monitor the logs. In this Kibana dashboard, you can go here and you can click on observability. So here log streams will be available. Here you can check for the logs. What are the logs that are available? You can check for the logs. Last 15 minutes, currently any logs are available. Currently there are no logs are available. First of all, our application should be ready, which will generate the log. That log will be taken by Logstash. Logstash will give that to the Elasticsearch. Let me simply set up one REST API, or let me use the existing REST API. Let me use my existing REST API. Timeleaf application is available. In this application, currently, we don't have any logging. Okay, one simple controller is available. Message controller is available. Let me implement some logging in this application. Private logger, SLF4J logger. I'm going for logger factory SLF4J dot get logger. For this message controller, I want one logger dot class. Now, how to write the logging in this method? For that, we will go for logger.info. I'm going to say that welcome message execution started. Welcome message execution started. And once that method execution is completed, I'm going to say welcome message execution ended. This is my log message, guys. Welcome message execution started, welcome message execution ended. Like this, I have my log message. Now, when my application is executed, this log message will be printed. I want to print that log message on the file. Let me configure that log.logger.pattern.file. Logging.pattern.file, or I can specify logging.file.name or file.path. Anything is fine. Logging.file.name. I'm giving the file name as app.log. Okay, let us refresh our application. Currently, we don't have any file with the name called app.log. Right click, run as boot application. I'm running this application. In this, there is a REST controller /welcome URL pattern is available. I have specified properties file name as app.log. Refresh. My application is getting started. You can see the log message will be generated. The log file will be created by our application and it will store log messages of our application. Yeah, application started. Refresh. Application started. Refresh. Message controller is available. Logger. Logging.file.name. Let me do Maven update. Update of this. Refresh. Right click, run as boot application. Yeah, now you can see app.log file is created. If you open that file, in that file, all the log messages are available. Now let me go and send a request to this application, that is localhost:8080/welcome. Localhost:8080/welcome. So I want to check, is that happening or not? Index.html, there is a issue. Neither binding result product available as a request attribute. Why this is returning that index page? Index page is written. Let us go to index page. Something might have modified. Index.html. Okay, later we added a form for that. Product form is available. Product price available. View all products available. Then I need to send a request for product controller. Product controller is available. In the product controller, I need to add one logger. Product validations failed. Product is added. Product is deleted. Logger. Product page is loaded. Let me write the logger here. Logger.info. Product page loaded. Product page loaded. Product view page loaded. Product.as error. Product saved. Already log is available in this method. Log is already available in this. Let me go for localhost:8080, which will load the product page. Yes, guys, I have loaded the product page. View all products. No products are available. Add the product. Keyboard. Price 500. Quantity 10. Click on submit. Product got saved. View products. Product is available. Okay. So with this, we are able to run our application. Whenever I run our application, let us refresh it. Let us see the log file. App.log is available. App.log is available. All the application logs are stored into this log file. Whatever the error is available, whatever the execution that happened, the log file is available. These are the logs. Now, I want this Logstash to take the logs of our application and it should give to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch should give it to the Kibana. From the Kibana, I want to access. So for this, I need to go and run my Logstash. Already my Elasticsearch is running and my Kibana is also running. Now I need to run my Logstash. In the Logstash, I need to specify the path where our log file is available. So go here, softwares, logstash, bin, logstash dot bat file is available. For that, I need to provide a input. Logstash configuration will be available. In that configuration, I'm going to specify logstash sample.conf. In that file, I'm going to specify where my log file is available. Logstash-f, logstash.bat is available. Logstash sample conf file will be available. Sample conf file. In this conf file, we can specify the path of our log. So where my log file is available? My log file is available in the project directory, workspace. What is the project name? That is 18th application, Timeleaf app. Here my app.log is available. Let me copy this path. So this path I'm going to give as an input here. This one I'm going to give as an input. I'm telling to my logstash, my application log file is available here. You take the log file from that location and you give it to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch will give it to Kibana. This is the URL of the Elasticsearch. So once it is done, let us go and start our Elasticsearch server. Bin directory here, logstash sample.conf file is available. Let me go to bin directory. Let me keep that here. Logstash sample.conf file is available. If you open that conf file, it is having the path of my log file where the log is available. Application log file I'm giving to Logstash. Logstash will give it to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch will give it to Kibana. Right. I have already given that. Now let me go and start my Logstash. So to start the Logstash, again there is a command. Logstash.bat file is available. Logstash bat file is available. -f sample conf file we are providing as input. Now it is going to start the Logstash. For the Logstash, I have given the config file as the input. That config file contains the path of our application log file. All this setup we no need to do in the project, guys. This is the DevOps activity. Setting up the log files to the path and giving that path to this ELK stack that operations team is going to set up. So once this setup is completed, as a developer, you should know how to use the Kibana and how to monitor logs of your application. Yeah. I'm waiting for this Logstash server to be started. Guys, still the log, yeah. Finally, the Logstash server got started. Successfully started the Logstash API. It will be running on the port number 9600. You can verify your Logstash server is up and running or not. Okay, this is our application URL here. I'm going to start my Logstash URL. I'm going to access, yes. So with this successful JSON, we can say that Logstash is running. And here 9200, this is Elasticsearch. This is our actual Spring Boot application. And here our Kibana is available. Kibana is providing the user interface to monitor logs of our application. I'm trying to monitor the logs of our application. Log streams will be available. Check for new data. Let me access our application. Go to add new product, view all products, add new product, view products. Now go here and refresh. Check for new data. Anonymize, categories, logs. Yes, now you see we are able to access our application logs by using this Kibana. So now here live logs also you can get it. So in.ashok product controller, product page is loaded, product view page is loaded. Like this, you can get the logs by using this Kibana. So this is just to monitor logs of our application. So if you look at this diagram, you will get it. Application is available. Application is generating a log file. So application is having the log file path. So in the project directory, I'm going to create one file with a name called app.log. Whenever a request comes to our application, it is generating the log messages. All the log messages will be stored into a file called app.log file. Okay. Once that app.log file is created, I'm starting the Logstash server. For the Logstash server, I'm configuring the path of our application log file. So here, if you have multiple log files, you can configure multiple paths. Currently, I'm having one log file. So this is the location where I'm giving my application log file as an input for Logstash. Input file I'm giving, output file I'm giving. Input is application path where the log file is available. Output is Elasticsearch. So Logstash will read the log file from the application and will store in the Elasticsearch. That is the configuration here. Input is our application path, output Elasticsearch. Once it is done, that Logstash will read the logs from that file, will give to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch URL already we configured in the Kibana. So when we go to the Kibana dashboard and when you refresh this, the logs which are available in the Elasticsearch, Kibana getting the logs and it is displaying those logs. So like this application logs we can monitor by using this ELK stack. So here I have given the document. How can we set up that? We need to download the ELK softwares. Elasticsearch we need to download. Kibana we need to download. Logstash we need to download. Extract all the zip files. Then run the elasticsearch.bat file. Make sure all the security settings disabled in the Elasticsearch YML before running. Then once the Elasticsearch is started, then check the Elasticsearch running or not using this URL. Then run the Kibana by using kibana.bat file. Run Elasticsearch using elastic.bat file. So this is the syntax. Directly you can run elasticsearch.bat. That's it. If you run this command, Elasticsearch will start. That Elasticsearch you can access by using this URL. Once it is done, then run the Kibana. So how to run the Kibana? To run the Kibana also same process. You will open one more command prompt. In that command prompt, you will type kibana.bat. With that, Kibana server is going to start. Once Kibana started, then you can access this URL. But for Kibana, log messages are required. Where the logs should be stored? In the Elasticsearch. Who will give the logs to the Elasticsearch? That's where Logstash comes into picture. First, we need to run our boot application and generate the log file with the log messages. Once it is done, create the logstash.conf file. That conf file contains the input where our log file is available and output where it has to store. Input is our path of the log file, output Elasticsearch. So once this configuration is completed, then run the Elastic server started, then run the Logstash. So this is the command to run the Logstash. Once you run the Logstash, you can check the Logstash server is running or not. Once it is running, check application logs in Kibana dashboard. Check the application logs in the Kibana dashboard. So if you go to the Kibana, so in the Kibana here, the log messages will be available. You can filter last 24 hours logs you can get, last 10 minutes logs you can get, last 15 minutes logs also you can get by using Kibana. Like this, people will use ELK stack to monitor logs of the application. Log4j file you can monitor, but the thing is the log file size increased? If you want to get last 10 minutes logs, if you want to get last 15 minutes logs, you need to read the complete file from top to bottom. You need to read the log file from top to bottom. But Kibana, a beautiful user interface is provided. Based on the requirement, you can filter the logs and you can get the logs. Seeing the log file, you can do it, but it is very difficult to understand the messages available in the log file. When we have a beautiful user interface, we can filter those logs as per our requirement. So that is the purpose of ELK stack. So DevOps people will set up this ELK stack in the project. As a developer, you should log in into this Kibana and you need to check what logs are available when the exception occurred. If you want to check for the exception, then you can type some exception. So the log messages which contains the exception, it is displaying. Now see here, I have given the keyword as exception. Here, extended time frame by 7 minutes. Right here, the messages which contains only exception keyword, only those messages are coming in the search result. So like this, you can search for the logs. Perfect. Good guys. So with this, we are done with our syllabus. So if people asked me to explain the ELK stack, so I have shown you the demo, how that ELK stack is going to work and what is the purpose of that ELK stack. So I will share all this workspace. So whatever we have developed in our classes, the examples, whatever we have done, I'm hoping that you guys also practiced it. So anyhow, whatever the examples that I have developed, I will upload these things and I will share this workspace URL by today night or by tomorrow. I will upload this. Thank you so much for this, guys. So finally, we completed our 27 SBMS Spring Boot batch and our WhatsApp group is there. The group will still open. So whenever you face any issue, whenever you having any doubt, then you can share in that group. I'm also part of that group. I will be checking the messages in the group. So at any point of time, if you need any help, if you have any questions, you can communicate with our group members in that group. We are not going to delete that group. So from my side, the class notes related to this ELK and this reactive, I'm going to upload that. So once it is done, I will share the workspace also for your practice purpose. Okay, good. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Good.